Well, he has done it again. After the ceasefire talks with Iran collapsed, Donald Trump did something that no one expected. He instituted a naval blockade on all Iranian ports to counter the blockade that the Iranians had already imposed.
Pablo el Molinero, the honest reportero, crazy güero vaquero, straight shooter caballero.
The war with Iran, despite what anyone may tell you, was completely one-sided. The IRGC Air Force and Navy have been largely destroyed. Iran still has a number of missiles, drones, and the like, but their military has not enjoyed any significant success against the overpowering airstrikes by the United States and Israeli forces. If the bombing campaign starts again, the regime has very few resources with which to defend itself. Basically, the IRGC has one card left to play. Without a doubt, it is a very good card, but just one nonetheless. That is the Strait of Hormuz. If they can manage to choke off traffic, Iran could cause global energy prices to rise to levels that would be politically unacceptable to the United States and its allies. That could effectively cause a kind of stalemate in the war that would leave the Islamist government in power. The strait is a little more than 20 miles wide at its narrowest point. The usable shipping lanes are even smaller, 2 to 3 miles each going in and out. That isn't a lot of room to cover, even for a minimally armed force that the IRGC has been reduced to. Cargo ships and oil tankers are understandably reluctant to go into waters that may have been seeded with mines or to face drones and other missiles the Iranians could deploy. The Iranian plan was to only allow access to nations friendly or neutral to Iran, and even then, all transit would have to be coordinated and pass through a new shipping lane that goes north of Larak Island. Also, Iran would collect a transit fee of up to $2 million per ship. The Western press were seemingly happy to declare that Donald Trump had lost his war and would have to retreat from the effort with little to show for it. Many also declared that he chickened out, lost his nerve after stating that a whole civilization will die tonight, and then tried to negotiate a 2-week ceasefire. Given the public statements offered by the Iranian government and the 10-point plan that was said to be the basis for their negotiations, I don't think anyone really thought there was much of a chance for the talks to lead to a peace deal. But while the discussions in Islamabad were being carried out, the United States was deploying 2 battleships into the Persian Gulf to begin mine removal operations. It was only 3 hours after the negotiations fell apart that Donald Trump declared a naval blockade on any ship bowing to the demands of the Iranians or to use Iran's new shipping lane or pay their transit fee. At present, there are 15 warships in the immediate area tasked with enforcing the blockade. I don't think anyone outside the military ever imagined a total naval blockade of the Iranian ports by the United States was even on the table. The last naval blockade we were involved in was during the Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962. In my opinion, this was a very Trumpian kind of move. It was bold and caught everyone off guard. Anyway, we'll see what the Trump always chickens out crowd has to say about it. Of course, there is still a large risk involved in the blockade of Iran's ports, just as there has been with the whole conflict with that country. I may think the blockade is a brilliant move, but we still don't know what the outcome will be. So let's look at what we do know up to now. So far, no ship has tried to defy the United States blockade since its implementation at 1400 hours GMT on Monday. 3 ships got through just hours before the deadline, and 2 tankers retreated, presumably because they weren't able to exit the Gulf on time. The mine-clearing operation has just begun, and one of the complications involved is that because of the haphazard way the mines have been deployed, even the IRGC admits they aren't exactly sure where they all are. There have been no reports of attacks against our battleships since the beginning of the blockade, and Iran hasn't fired any missiles against Israel or any other country in the last 48 hours. Clearly, this is a very tenuous situation, and any number of events could cause it to deteriorate in an instant. But there are some observations I would like to share with you that are worth taking into consideration. I just heard an interview with Vice President J.D. Vance where he gave more insights about the negotiations. First of all, there are three major demands that the United States has that their counterparts were unwilling to commit to. These are already widely known. Iran must abandon its ambitions for a nuclear weapon. It must turn over the nuclear material it has in its possession, and it must end its support for terrorism around the world. But one thing that Vance seemed to notice is that the Iranian negotiating team didn't seem to have the full authority to offer much of anything. This brings me to a point that I still don't think is widely understood. We still don't know who has the final decision-making authority for that country. We don't know who, if anyone, is in charge there. The dead Ayatollah's son, Mojtaba Khamenei, is the nominal supreme leader of Iran, but no one has actually seen the man in public, and the suspicion is that he is dead or incapacitated, and in any case, not really in charge. Mahyar Tusi is an Iranian reporter and the purveyor of his YouTube channel, Tusi TV. He regularly shows videos from Iran that some have managed to send out through the sparse internet. Lately, he has shown hardline Iranian supporters of the regime protesting the fact that there is even a ceasefire or negotiations to end the war at all. The point is the same that I have made since the 12-day war last year. The tolerance for pain by some elements of the regime seem to have no limits. They may never be willing to end this war. But the key here may be the economic pressure that a blockade of Iran may put on its ruling class. Corruption among the leaders there is known to be systemic and pervasive. Tusi speculates that financial considerations override the religious parameters for many in the IRGC, and a successful blockade cuts off all of the money. Anyway, to those who insisted there is no plan, I say they are wrong. There is a clear risk that a blockade may take much longer to have a positive effect than we would like. There is also the chance that it may not work at all, but such is the nature of risk-taking. One thing I don't think that many Trump haters believe is that he wants every country to be prosperous. Vice President Vance stressed this point during the negotiations in Islamabad. My hope is that the pressure forces the regime to choose survival over ideology, that Iran rejoins the community of normal nations, because prosperity and stability benefit everyone, including the Iranian people. That's ultimately why I supported strong action in the first place. Thanks for watching. This is Pablo El Molinero.